Hello, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Alex, how are you?
Oh, doing fine, doing fine. Um, you?
Not too bad.
It's excellent.
All for hearing you, and I just guessed that the question was, how are you? Uh, I wonder, let me ask in the chat if everyone else can hear okay.
Yeah, I think I'm fine. I hope I am. Okay, that's good.
Must be on my end, but I
Probably.
think I think no problem. You sound slightly like a robot, but we can deal with
That's because I am a robot.
that. Yeah.
What do you mean slightly? Okay, so I will start as usual in a couple of minutes. Let's give a chance for more people to join, even though um, considering the Thanksgiving, the World Cup, and all of the rest of the world's events today combined. Probably a lot of people are busy with their own lives, but whoever is here, thank you very much for being here. And we are going to talk today about the usual privacy in general, beam development. I also want to discuss this idea that was um, kind of raised on the forum about creating a messenger function inside Beam Wallet, and there was quite a lot of discussion about it. Some people are for it and some people are against, and we will kind of discuss both to see what we can do. Yeah, so that's the plan. So yeah, let's get started.
A lot to cover, and I think there's some very interesting discussions, both like on the for side and against side for the messenger.
Totally, totally. But let's start with the kind of general situation around privacy these days. As you know, a lot of services are starting to add all kinds of very problematic, I would say, features, improvements, and additions, such as collecting user data. This comes from consensus from Infura specifically, and as you know, a lot of services work with Infura, MetaMask, obviously, and even our own atomic swaps. So this is a big deal, and it was tweeted and retweeted by both like the Tweet General and Beam community specifically. And it's troubling, in my opinion. It's very troubling because you know, like this data was never really private, but when you have basically, I don't know, you're giving a permission by using their service to not only collect it but also sell it to third parties and do whatever they want with it. I think it's not a good development. Um, I think I saw this video from Edward Snowden talking about this, how crypto is going in the wrong direction with all of this. Instead of being decentralized, we have more and more reliance on centralized services that can actually do all of these things, such as collect data and save it. And also we see a wave of new kind of KYC requirements from various services, including Uniswap, right? I heard, or at least we're talking about it. I don't know if they're actually doing it.
Yeah, I believe they were talking about KYC.
Yeah. So, this is obviously a problem for a service that's supposed to be decentralized, I would say. Not to mention the fact that when you are centralized front end for a decentralized service, you're also at risk of leaking a lot of data, IP addresses, and such. Um, we are always kind of trying to do this in as decentralized way as possible. That's why we provide all kinds of options to install applications locally in your wallet and to use them directly from the wallet without going to any website. And in my opinion, one of the trends that people who are actually interested in decentralization, proper decentralization, are going to realize that this is the way to go. Like you need to provide completely locally installed services that do not rely on just working from the web or getting all of from centralized service providers or RPC providers. Now for Ethereum, it's a problem because it's very difficult to run your own node. You need, I mean, it's not that difficult, but it's consuming, right? You need a very like powerful machine with a lot of storage. I think it's over a terabyte just to download the blockchain and run on client. So not everyone obviously can do that, but otherwise you are actually relying on somebody providing these services for you. So it's a problem.
And one thing that I feel like is that given that like decentralization of everything makes it a little bit less kind of ideal on a usability front in some cases, or just making things easy. So if there's any chance that it will kind of divert or head towards the centralized solutions, it will happen. So this needs to be, and I don't think it's really been like front and center as of yet. In Beam's case, we've been building it this way. But a lot of these projects are kind of just going with the flow and building something, and then the issue comes and something gets centralized. Then it creates obviously issues in terms of censorship resistance and this kind of stuff, or regulators are forcing them to do KYC and AML stuff. Whereas if you built with decentralization kind of as the backbone and everything you did was to ensure this, it would be, at least in my opinion, a lot better a lot better environment at the moment, and we wouldn't be seeing so much of this weirdness coming in from projects and regulators and this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. And also, it's a process. It's an ongoing process. It's not something that happens overnight because when there is a demand for a certain level of security, or eventually these things kind of, they start obviously with the more kind of technical people who are more specifically, if we're talking about privacy concerned or like of all of these issues. But little by little, we get kind of trickling down effect from these features also going into kind of mass, for example, end-to-end encryption in chats. It's something that, yeah, we can still criticize it, some of it, but at least now there is no such thing that, a respectable messaging application at least does not say that it has end-to-end encryption, right? So it kind of became a default feature. That was not the case several years ago. So we do need to continue our important job in both building these solutions and promoting them heavily and raising us. And this is what I see as kind of one of the missions of Beam Project, in addition to building the blockchain and building the tools and the environments around it, but also to kind of make people understand in any way possible through, social media or whatever, that it's not only about people who have something to hide, which is one of the most abused arguments we see, happening all over the place. Like the fact that you don't have anything to hide doesn't mean that anyone should just be able to see and know everything about you. That's absolutely nonsensical.
Exactly. And I saw something, I think it was in relation to this stuff, the Infura and Uniswap and this, and they said like, yeah, we are storing temporarily IP addresses and this kind of stuff, but we're not using them, so we will stop doing that. And it's like, okay, but if you're not using it, if you're not using it now, it doesn't mean that you wouldn't be using it in the future, or that that kind of data would be kind of asked for politely, of course, by certain three-letter agencies or whatever, and you'd be having to give this info up.
Yeah. And it's not like, it's not the first time that we are in this situation. It happens like all the time, but also people who are kind of lucky enough or like fortunate enough to be living in more kind of civilized, democratic or, advanced countries and parts of the world should not forget that there are other places on this planet, unfortunately, which are not exactly in the same, I would say, level of personal security in general and human rights wise And in these places, these leaks or this data that is collected and then either sold or requested or in any way, abused, can lead to severe personal harm for these people. So it's not like, it's not just, oh, somebody knows my balance on Ethereum. It's like you can actually go to jail or be killed or whatever. We have a speaker request from Harsh. Could you please allow Mr. Harsh to speak?
Have approved it. Harsh, you may need to unmute yourself.
Yes, please.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Hey. So first of all, I just wanted to ask, the Beam also uses AWS, right, in some certain capacity, as far as I know, to serve the WASM files, at least of the contracts on the user end. Mm,
Yeah. So let me outline how this works, like on Beam. First of all, Beam has three parts, essentially. You have the Beam node, the Beam wallet, and you have the decentralized applications. The decentralized applications are usually uh, combined of two parts. One is deployed directly to the blockchain, but the other one is this front end module, which is integrated with the wallet, and it provides to the smart contract that's deployed on chain. So in terms of both node and the wallet, the safest way is to get the code and build the code yourself. The second safest is to rely on the binaries that we provide as Beam organization that are signed with our certificates and our keys. Obviously, download them from the website, official website, and always check this security SHA hash that we attach. This is like the second way, and always everything else is kind of much, much, much less safe. Now, about the application files. Right now, we have kind of two we have three main ways to use these files, like the applications themselves. The first one is what happens when you just open the wallet and you go to the dApp store. It's like this list of applications that we currently provide from our store. So this specific list of applications is served by a server, a centralized server running on Amazon. And the files that are downloaded are indeed downloaded from Amazon. So yes, in this specific scenario, you get the file from like the location where we put it. However, the application file does not have access to your in-wallet data design, and you can does leak information. For example, if you if you open a file which was compromised, it can connect to a centralized server and leak your IP. That can happen. But it cannot in any way spend your funds without your permission, even know your balance or know anything about your transaction history. So this is kind of the current state of security of these applications. The second way to install an application is to just get the files from an external location, can be from anywhere, and install it as a local file. So we have this local archive, which contains all of the files needed to run the application inside the wallet, and then you just click install like open file in the wallet, and it installs locally. And the third way is to use our decentralized dApp store, which means that you find some publisher's public key, you add it to the kind of publisher list that you have in your wallet, and then you can use the applications that were provided by this publisher. Now, this is definitely much riskier because you don't know like who is this publisher is necessarily. But once again, like the file cannot be replaced because the hash of the file is stored in the smart contract. So at least you know it's the same file that was published. And other than that, once again, it cannot access your funds. It cannot access your data in the wallet. It can only do things from now on. Like if it makes you do some transaction and to send funds to some place that you think is safe, but it's not, then obviously you can lose your money.
yes, but what I was asking is, there can be a decentralized way to do this, right? If you try, as you have mentioned before, that Wasm is out from AWS, the client side one. So
Mm-hmm.
can't you use IPFS for that, for the same, like for IPFS? So, uh, data leakage, because what I'm saying is the Beam team or anyone that has access to those AWS knows that I use this specific DApp at this time because of the leakage of my IP, right? Who use the particular app, they can get information around it. And if sometimes some legal actions are taken against AWS or any inquiry goes against AWS, they will be more than happy to release those information to public. Those in which this time frame, this IP had access this DApp at that time.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, I totally agree. You can like I can write it down and open a feature request myself to move all of the existing applications to IPFS, just like the the centralized app store runs over IPFS and not over Amazon. We just can move everything there, and it will be fine. I totally agree with you. Great remark.
Uh,
Sure. Okay. So it's a great request. We will capture it. And also, I had this idea. Every once in a while, I see people writing in the forum, sorry, in the chat, in the Telegram, in the community group, and throwing like all kinds of ideas that get sometimes lost in the ongoing conversation because it's very difficult to find it. So what I would suggest is if you're writing some idea that you have, doesn't matter like what, but you have this feature request or a thought or an improvement, just is something like feature or like let's find this kind of one word that we can use both on Twitter if you want to tweet about it, or on Telegram, and then it will be much easier for us to just go over the chat, look for this hashtag, and detect it instead of just going over like all of the conversations, because some start with some idea and then there's a discussion about it, and then somehow it gets lost in all of the additional kind of discussions that are going on, and we miss it, which is, in my opinion, can be improved. Cool.
And I wanted
We
to
just need to invent. Yeah.
I wanted to back that up with like no idea is too simple. Like sometimes I think in crypto and in life in general, like even the most simplest of ideas are some of the best. So don't be worried that your idea is not super complex or whatever, because often those are just as vital as any other complex ideas. So
Yeah, totally. So speaking of those ideas, one of the ideas that was kind of floating around for a long time, and now it reappeared in the forum, is the idea to include some kind of a messenger inside the Beam wallet.
this is one that's been brought up many, many times. Well, not a huge amount of times, but it's often brought up like for years, right?
Yeah, it's not a new one, but so I think it's time we did something like that, and I'll tell you why. So first of all, let me go over the technical side of it, because I saw a lot of discussions of whether it will or will not clutter the blockchain's additional information, or how is it going to work. So actually, the original suggestion had it, I think, almost absolutely right in terms of like how this can be implemented fairly easily. And the way it's going to work, or the way it can work, is using the SBBS. So SBBS is a secure kind of messaging system built into the wallet that allows Beam wallets to exchange information, which is encrypted. So first of all, it was used initially to create transactions for Mimblewimble. Since the transactions are interactive, we needed both sides to sign it before it can be sent to the blockchain. So both wallets had to receive this information. And SBBS was mostly used to just exchange these two parts of the transaction between the sender and the receiver. However, later we saw that this mechanism can be extended, so we used it to broadcast our marketplaces, because the Atomic Swap and the Asset Swap marketplaces are using this very mechanism to broadcast offers, right? And in general, this mechanism can be extended to hold almost any information, except there are some interesting limitations. And I would like to kind of expand about that. So first of all, the way it works is in order to avoid detection of the sending of the message, the wallet receives kind of pulls not all of the SBBS messages, but a large portion because it's subdivided into 1,000 channels. So when you are sending someone a key, a SBBS address, which is a public key essentially, it also includes the number of the channel. And then the wallet pulls all of the messages from the channel. And then it can only decrypt the messages that were specifically encrypted for it, right? Why do we pull all of the messages? In order to avoid the ability of someone to figure out the connection between the wallet by which messages are being pulled, right? So we just pull everything. Now, it's a good solution, in my opinion. It's a good and secure solution. Now, additional problem is that obviously we do not want, like in this implementation, to store these messages indefinitely. And so SBBS messages by default, they are stored for, I think, about 12 hours. So after 12 hours, these messages just get thrown out of the server.
And this is what kind of keeps, like, obviously blockchain, the SBBS, so it doesn't require massive block space or any block space or anything like this, right?
It has absolutely no relation to the blockchain whatsoever, on purpose, because as you know, in Beam we do not store any addresses, on the blockchain. And when we're talking about, Mimblewimble and Lilantos transactions specifically, because if you're using a smart contract, there is some address there. When we're talking about transactions, no information about your identity is stored there. And SBBS is completely disconnected from the blockchain, both in terms of the storage and the usage. It doesn't cost you fee in Beam. It doesn't cost you anything. And this brings us to another problem, which means that, okay, when we're using SBBS just to create transactions, it's fine. But when we're going to use SBBS for additional things like messaging, so obviously it's more traffic and it will require some kind of incentive scheme, which can be very beneficial to encourage users to run these servers. Right now, most of these servers are run either within our wallets or the Bootstrap nodes or public nodes provided by several organizations. But when we add more and more functionality, it would be very helpful, in my opinion, to have some kind of incentivization scheme. And we're thinking about how we can implement that. So basically, what we can do right now, without going into crazy development, and this brings us to some people that are opposed to this idea, saying that, listen, Beam is not a messenger company. It's not our core business, which it obviously isn't. And even though it might sound like a great idea, why waste resources and why waste time on developing something that will definitely not be able to compete with, Signal or Telegram or messengers that are established, high scale, and created solely for this purpose. Now, I think that we can do something kind of in between. We can do something minimal. We can implement a small chat feature within the wallet that will enable you to do several things. First of all, to communicate directly, let's say, with the other side of the swap, if it's an asset swap or an atomic swap. You also will be able to send messages between the wallets of people something fairly minimal. Obviously, not send large files or files at all, not animated stickers in the first version and things like that. However, you will be sure that, first of all, your messages are encrypted, your identity is safe, the messages are self-destructing after 12 hours. We do have the ability to store permanent SBBS addresses that never expire, which means that you can create this address and send it to a few friends, and now you will be able to chat with them. And we also have bonds, which we can use for this purpose, so that when you send a message to beamcto.beam, it will reach my wallet wherever I am, because I own this bonds address with my private key.
That's cool. And I think this is kind of a cool use case as well. being able to message people and then pick it up later. So how would it work with the bands in terms of like using the SBBS but not being on chain?
Yeah, so this is a great this is a great point. So first of all, there are several types of solutions, but I think that one of the simplest solutions is to have some kind of caching servers that, like, first of all, if you're online within 12 hours, obviously we'll get the message, right?
Yeah.
If you are not online within 12 hours, the message will be lost if you only send it as BBS, unless there is some kind of centralized or decentralized a subnetwork of servers that are configured to store this information for longer, for, let's say, this specific set of channels, or depending on how we implement this.
And this goes back to one of the things you mentioned, I think it was on the forum about, or maybe I mentioned it via you in the newsletter, about how to incentivize the SBBS nodes specifically for the messenger and for other things.
Yeah, totally. Now, once again, it very much depends on how we specify this feature, in this first version. Like we need to think about the product specs, and this is where I really invite everyone to participate and post some ideas and some kind of preliminary screenshots that I have created very crudely, just to illustrate how this might look in the first version. And yeah, there might be limitations. So we need to decide how critical it is, right? If you message someone, how long it should be stored. And yeah, we're not competing with Telegram here. Telegram in this specific kind of case is amazing. You can send a 100 megabyte file and it will just wait for you there forever, which is kind of cool. But that's not the point, right? That's not our goal. Our goal is to create something relatively simple and then see whether it's useful at all, how many people use it, and how it can be expanded. We do have IPFS integration. So we can use IPFS for some of these services. We can use some creative ways of kind of retrying and rebroadcasting the messages. Once again, it will require the users being online within the same 24 hours, but that's usually the case. Like when you communicate with people often, you do catch them within a day or two, right? So that's usually how it works, unless it's somebody who is on vacation, and you can use email. It's okay. So it's not. It doesn't need to cover all of the cases that are currently covered by medium of communication.
Absolutely, and like I want to stress that it's not a commitment, like creating an MVP or something like this is not a commitment to going like a full messenger out and this kind of stuff. We do have a couple of questions in the chat, or in a couple of chats. One is from Joe S, and he says, "Sorry, I'm puffing because I just ran down the stairs and ran back up." Joe S has a question. After twice message will destruct, could you elaborate on the meaning of self-destruct?
Yes. So, okay. So first of all, okay, I'm just thinking how to express this best. Obviously, anyone can record these messages, right? So basically, when you send an SBBS message, it can be stored by a third party forever. You can create a node, customize it a little bit, and just get all of the messages and record them in the database. However, for the entire system right now, mostly in order to preserve space on your node, and since initially these messages only had transient meaning, you only needed them to create a transaction or broadcast an offer, which will by anyway expire after some amount of hours. The standard node just forgets about these messages and discards them and deletes them. That's what it means that the message is self-destructing. So it's not like anything, crazy.
it wouldn't go into the message receiver's brains and kind of delete the message from their memory either, would it?
Probably not. Probably
No.
not. But
So like the closest thing I can find, or the closest like comparison I can think of is Snapchat, whereas like you get a message or a picture or whatever, and then it kind of deletes itself and you can't see it again. But obviously you can take a screenshot and this kind of thing, and maybe it's still on the Snapchat servers themselves, but you can't access it from your
it's
device, kind of thing.
yeah, it's definitely on the Snapchat.
Yeah, yeah. They have a
Um,
they have a bank of snaps that they're waiting to
Yeah,
use.
because like unless they don't, right? So they can delete this communication, but I mean that we don't know, and we have no absolutely no kind of way of checking that. And even when you have this kind of right to be forgotten thing, when you can demand that the organization deletes all of your data, right? There is this kind of they have to provide now this button that says "forget about me," right? Even
Yeah.
then, you cannot really be sure 100% that there are no backups. Probably there are backups. So the information is there somewhere, but from like as far as you're concerned, you will never see it again because you said don't show it to me.
Yeah, exactly. This is one of the things that always concerns me with VPNs. Like, oh, we have a no logs policy. Okay, but obviously you can say whatever you want
Yeah,
and it doesn't have to
yeah.
be true. We do have a couple of more questions that are coming through in the chat. Harsh dropped out from speaker role, but he wanted to ask, can we focus on, or rather, can you ask, can we make a standard for NFTs first before worrying about the messenger thing?
Yes, and it's important to emphasize that the messenger thing does not come neither before nor instead of anything we've been discussing and doing. So let me just give you a brief status of what's going on right now with the things that are already in the works. And with the thing, I'm mostly interested in the discussion and kind of preparing the ground for a near future. But right now we have, as you know, at least three applications that are kind of waiting to be finished, tested, and released. Two of them we already spoke a lot, is the bridges and the decks. Both of them are in these final stages, and we just keep testing, keep finishing things. Mostly it's stuck on like really kind of technical DevOps issues and things like that, but both of them will be released to the mainnet soon. The bridges are already on the .NET and are waiting for the mainnet release. The DEX is not on yet, but it's being tested locally with developers and on internal networks. So these things are happening. We're really pushing to release them as far as as fast as we can. We really want them out as quickly as possible, but without compromising the quality, obviously. Now, in addition to that, we have this which is the contract that allows you to create new types of assets. It's relatively simple to implement. Right now, it's waiting to on an addition of a feature inside the wallet that allows you to list all of the assets, and it's already implemented. It's in the .NET release candidate. It was actually, I hoped it would be released today, but it's probably going to be early next week. It also includes one of the feature requests, which was actually repeated today, about being able to disable scam assets, right? So you can just choose which assets you want to see and or not to see inside your wallet and the asset swap feature. So this is already implemented and waiting to be released to .NET as soon as possible, and then tested by the community and us, and then released to mainnet. Now, in addition to that, we have an entire kind of scope of NFT gallery based features, which right now in the top priority, we have the airdrops that's been promised and then repromised and then we discussed, and now we're working on that and we're trying to complete it as quickly as possible. And also in addition to that, because we're touching this area to be able to set prices in assets, which was another feature request from Raskol, if I'm not mistaken. So we will deliver these two. And if you have like any additional feature requests from the gallery, now this is the time to kind of bundle all of them into one single release instead of just releasing and re-releasing every couple of weeks. But yeah, we're kind of on this topic. So all of these things are in the works already. So I just wanted to say that when we're talking about other and new stuff, it's not like, you know, we got bored with the old ones. It's just we're going to plan for the future and see what we can implement next. And once again, we prefer to do kind of several small things, proof of concept, small features, improvements, etc., and then see where it takes us.
I have a couple of questions. Maybe this is getting off topic, but I have done specifically on the DEX. If I understand right, the DEX will be very similar to Uni V2, right?
Yes.
And it will also have the, like, I don't know what to call them, the fee kind of assignments or the different fees for different pools, even within the same peer kind of thing.
Yeah. So initially, or like as it is right now, we were thinking about a structure very similar to Uniswap, 3 pools with different fees ranging from, if I remember correctly, like 0.03%, 0.3%, and then 1%. However, somebody mentioned correctly that most of the assets on Beam chain are, hardly stable coins. Like they're pretty exotic, as you would call them, and with very little liquidity. So maybe 1% is not even enough. So maybe we should provide kind of higher tier than 1%, which is very good remark in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting point of view, especially for anyone that's kind of been in a pool and suffered like impermanent loss to a large degree. And this is very common on Uni V2, and Uni V3 is too difficult for me to even wrap my head around. but it's very it's very disheartening to be a liquidity provider when you're getting a lot of losses for the assets that are kind of switching between each other.
Yeah, so I definitely support the idea of thinking about having a higher tier than 1%. However, I didn't want, and I don't want now, to have this option to set any fee you like kind of manually, because I believe it might confuse people to have too many pairs with different percentages from different pools and different people, both in terms of spreading the liquidity. You never, like, okay, somebody said like 3% and somebody said 4%. Which pool should I, provide liquidity for? It becomes a little bit confusing. So we need to think about that. This is also one of the topics that is very important to create on the forum, or just put it in Telegram or Twitter with the hashtag so it doesn't disappear. Because these discussions, they do not necessarily, are not resolved in a single kind of, day or an hour. Sometimes we need more feedback. We need to hear this feedback, think about it, analyze things. So it's very important that if you have the suggestion and idea of this kind, please put it, either send it directly to me and I will put it on the forum, or just put it on the forum yourself, because the forum is much more useful and much easier to find things and respond within context. So use it. It's a good tool.
And I want to say this especially with regards to the Messenger app. There's some very not heated discussion, but some very strong opinions with regards to the Messenger app. And it would be far more useful to the wider community and to the team and to everyone, essentially, if you outlined your reasoning for your concern, or your reasoning for supporting it in the forum under the Messenger, the Beam Anonymous Messenger post, which I'm going to share in the chat at the moment.
Yeah. By the way, one thing that kind of would be interesting to discuss, completely off topic, but not exactly. There is this kind of idea, like for example, when we're using our high frequency transactions, what we're basically doing, we are taking this mempool structure, right? And we treat it, instead of just like a list of transactions from which you can choose, we treat it as a tree, right? So you can say, I want my transaction to come after this one specifically, and then whoever is joining in comes after me. And when the miner or the selects a transaction, it actually selects like not some specific set of the list, but rather a branch within a tree. So it has a fixed ordering, and you know that if your transaction went in, it went in the order that you intended. And one of the things it has very kind of interesting impact on is MEV. And for those who are monitoring Ethereum, MEV is one of the hottest topics there, and for a good reason, because after the merge, first of all, the entire ecosystem of how the blocks are produced have changed. We now have validators, and these validators, they have to get these blocks from somewhere. So I'm not going into the details because it's long, but it's a very interesting story in it of itself. But the MEV has become one of the key kind of topics for discussion in Ethereum conferences and forums and in general. So this is something that I think we can talk about in the next space, for example, on whether this MEV is good, when it is good, and whether we want to do something to prevent, some of it or all of it on the pro in the future. I think it's very interesting to hear your opinions about what do you think about MEV and how to treat it.
It really is a fascinating topic, and like if you do dive in, and I highly suggest that everyone does, have a look at the MEV space in Ethereum and this kind of thing. What are your thoughts on MEV, Romanov?
Well, so I think that mostly it's harmful because it creates unfair advantages, and in some cases really hurts users. So I understand this idea that when you have a pool that needs to be balanced, obviously, somebody needs to balance it, and he needs to balance it as quickly as possible because this kind of moves the economy forward. However, I think that kind of attacks that use front running, sandwiches, all of these techniques that basically the miner or the validator controls how the block is, and they can just, take your transaction, put it where they want, just pay money for it, and then front run you and back run you and extract profit from your actions. And I think that's not good that it's happening. I think it's something that needs to be treated on protocol level and can be treated on protocol level, even though specifically Ethereum are doing nothing about it. But I think it can be done. I think it can be handled differently. That's my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I don't even have long thoughts on MEV, other than that it's incredibly fascinating, and that it'll revert back to something that I'm always kind of saying, at least to myself and in my own head, that if there's any value to be extracted in whichever way possible, it will be extracted. And the amount of eyes on crypto now from, developers, from governments, from everyone, there's a lot of value on chain, and there's a lot of people taking a look and seeing how they can kind of capture some of that value in whichever way possible.
I know it sounds funny that we talk about MEV right now, I mentioned it, because come on, release the DEX, and then you will have the chance to have MEV before you are going to avoid it. Even in terms of pravicy, one of the questions that I'm always kind of interested in, you remember the story that recently, I think several days ago or something like that, somebody who stole funds from somewhere. He started dumping them regardless of the prices, commissions. He just started to putting them into all kinds of pools. And then obviously this creates huge MEV opportunities, right? Because V bots just come and they say they see these kind of trades that ignore all cautions and basic rules, and they just can profit. Now the question is, it's obviously stolen funds. Like when you are doing MEV on stolen funds, like does it make you an accomplice? What or stealing from whoever stole is okay? I'm always wondering how this is dealt with.
A lot of a lot of moral ambiguity. Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, and then it goes at least in my opinion, it goes a step further, and then it's like if you're not maybe it's not necessarily MEV, but you're doing something that is extracting value in a way that maybe maybe because you have more knowledge or more information or whatever, and then it's like, is that also okay?
It's better somebody stole a bag of cash and he's running, and there is a cash falling from the bag. Like, is it okay for you to pick it up? Like, I don't know. Like, I never been in this situation, but hypothetically.
Yeah. I saw a video on such one of the bank trucks had crashed on a highway or something, and there was money all over the highway, and people were picking it up. So
exactly.
I assume that the bank stole a large amount of money in one form or another.
Okay, I see. I see how you explain this. It's just basically restoring the balance of the universe,
Yeah, exactly.
It's my money in the first place. Yeah, I got you.
And so I guess to put this in perspective for Beam, when Beam launches, do you expect there to be some MEV with regards to the DEX, for example, and this kind of thing?
So running, we need to have some traction and we have to need some liquidity. And once again, just like with anything else, if we have enough of those, then yes, somebody will actually run MEV bot. Running MEV bots, it's a costly and sophisticated operation, not necessarily simple. You need to know what you're doing in some way or another. So I think we will not see it like initially, but yeah, like if there is traction and there is money, as you said, like if there is something to extract, it will be extracted. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay, so do we have any other questions for now? Just to make sure we're not missing.
Let me ask in the chat quickly.
Yeah. So just to summarize, in terms of the status. So yeah, for a long time, we've been talking about almost releasing several applications. And this is what takes most of our efforts these days is finishing this pipeline that we have right now of at least 3 or 4 applications that are almost ready and being tested for a long time. Once we finish releasing that, we will be in a completely different place. We will have DEX, we will have updated gallery, obviously. We will have all of these applications that we promised. And then we will start seeing bridges, obviously, we will start promoting them. Once again, even though specifically for bridges, for example, even though it's we really try to make it as reliable as possible, obviously it's going to be, at least initially, a very high risk operation. So please, in general, be very cautious, but specifically with new applications and new features, do not just run, pouring all of your Ethereum into Beam. Do it accurately and cautiously. So there is always inherent risk in new things, especially when there are bridges. I hate bridges, but yeah.
Bridges present an enormous attack vector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bridges suck.
Yeah. What do you a question on this front? How do you see the bridge space? And this is kind of a general question about crypto how do you see, like, there's always been a lot of discussion about these like app chains or like different chains creates worse composability and all this kind of stuff. Do you see like a cross-chain future with bridges being like the thing, or is it more like a multi-chain future where each kind of chain is at least more kind of how to say, like within itself and this kind of thing?
So I know for a fact that there are projects that are doing this well within themselves, right? We see Polkadot, we see Cosmos, and within the project it's working because once again you have some kind of a standard. Proper bridge requires standardization. You cannot, have two completely separate chains created by completely different teams with different technologies and zero kind of coordination, suddenly bridged in a secure way. So obviously, to bridge in a decentralized way, you need to support some kind of client that understands what's happening on the other chain within your chain. There's no way around it, especially if these chains have different, consensus mechanisms, different block times. It's very difficult to synchronize, all because we have implemented a decentralized bridge between Ethereum and Beam, but we didn't continue, didn't roll it out eventually, and instead we chose to start with centralized because the amount of different attack vectors there, especially when you have like dispute and then dispute on dispute, and then you need to unbind a lot of proofs. So it basically can bring a lot of resources to that, and not necessarily, right wins. Maybe, somebody can attack with a lot of money and just cause a lot of disputes, and this whole system will be stuck. So that's why we didn't do that. But in general, there are two ways that kind of I think it will develop. First of all, we will see more kind of standardization, more agreement between projects on how to do things, because starting from 2017, there was an explosion of different projects, different blockchain. Like everybody created a new blockchain of some kind. Eventually, some of these solutions will be proven as better than others and adopted. And then they will be the basis for this new standard. So it happened to the internet, it happened to any major technology that has this network effect. It's not necessarily going to be the best technology, but it's going to be the most accepted one that can serve your needs, right? So yeah.
For sure. And like this also brings a question, not really brings into question, but kind of emphasizes why, for example, at least the like optimism, that's a very difficult word for me, why the optimism bridge, like the official bridge, to go back from Optimism, I think, to Ethereum is like a 7-day period or something like that.
Yes,
And
because the idea of optimism is to use optimistic rollups, right? So basically, you say, okay, it's fine unless somebody says it's not, and then you need to bring proofs. And this is exactly why in optimistic rollups, these times are usually very long, because you need to be absolutely sure that no one, no one objects to your transaction.
Exactly. So that like objection period is kind of similar. I haven't like worded this well, but kind of similar to how in proof of work, if you're transferring like on chain from one proof of work network to another, and the cost of the transaction versus the cost to like 51% attack it to roll that transaction back, kind of thing. Would this be somewhat similar?
It's no, it's not exactly the same, because in the proof of work design, every block makes you kind of more certain and makes it more difficult to roll back history. So let's say your transaction went into block number 1. And then in block number 2 and 3 and 4, the more blocks come after your transaction, the more your transaction is kind of difficult to roll back, because in order to roll it back, you need to remine this entire chain of the blocks, starting with the block where your transaction went in and all the blocks after that. And which is why kind of statistically, it's considered safe, let's say in Bitcoin, to wait for like 6 blocks, right, which is about an hour, and then it would be almost kind of infeasible to roll back Bitcoin 6 blocks to attack and to steal your transaction and to cause double spend. So in Beam, we have this very kind of strict, I think it's 1 hour or something like that, threshold where you can automatically, like you cannot automatically roll beyond this point, right? It's called a rolling checkpoint. So it means that if somebody was powerful enough to cause the entire network to roll back over this threshold, the nodes will just refuse to accept it. And then, if it's actually true, the operators will need to manually update the node. So this is kind of this protection mechanism against huge rollbacks.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah. So in optimism, it's just optimism. That's exactly how it works. You send your transaction with zero kind of checks, and you rely on someone being watching, first of all, actively. And in case you are pulling some kind of trick and sending complete bullshit, to say, oh, wait a second, where did that come from? Can you bring a proof? And this also relies on the ability to punish you. Because if you're not punished, then or you're not staking anything or whatever, then you will just nonsense, hoping that one time no one will watch and you will get your transaction passing through.
Some kind of like a positive minor extractable value there potentially.
Yeah, but I mean, you need to stake something to be able to participate in this system, because you need to understand that if you are trying to be untruthful, it will cost you immediately. So yeah, this is an important point.
Good. I think there was like one example of such, maybe not so recently, actually, a month or a couple of months ago now.
Yeah. So what do you think? When will the bear market be over? No, I'm kidding.
Oh God. Any second now.
Any day now. Yeah.
Well, we are coming up to the final hour.
Yeah. Many thanks for everyone joining us today. Really great to be here with you. And yeah, we'll see you next Thursdays. I look fine for now, I hope.
Yeah. Thursdays are the new Sundays unless we change them. I want to emphasize a point that Harsh made in the Telegram, and he said, thank you, Romanov, for coming every week and communicating, noting feedback, and discussing various things with the community. And like on behalf of the community, a huge thank you. And it's actually really fun for me and very cool to have every week some more discussion coming up around like Beam feature requests, which I think is one of the coolest things we've done recently, and looking forward to many more in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure that Amir already reminded me in the chat to talk about documentation. I don't see the chat in front of me, but yeah, I didn't. I forgot to talk about it, but it's okay, because on the next space, first of all, I will complete this first kind of cycle of tutorials that I've been doing for the last weeks or so, and then we will just cover this topic in much more detail, developer documentation and how to implement smart contracts. So we will talk about that as well next time. Yeah, and have a great evening.
Wicked, thank you so much, and also happy Thanksgiving to all of our American friends and that kind of thing.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.